Oh my God, that almost intercepted.
Yo guys, welcome to this week's Wholesome Half Hour. I'm Saren, this is Mackenzie, and this is Josh. What do we call Josh?
Josh,
just
mostly.
Josh. I don't know, we call Fraser chemistry enthusiast was the term that we came up with.
Oh really?
Yeah. Financial enthusiast. Can you be enthused about money? Surely.
I mean,
A money
everyone.
enthusiast is just a capitalist, right?
Yeah, love capitalism, pays the bills.
I'm so sure there is like a growing body of our study time audience that I think like genuinely believes we're like out here to spread communist propaganda.
I'm genuinely of this belief.
Which is, it's more funny than anything, but
Yeah.
it's maybe somewhat concerning later on down the line.
But yeah, so today we asked you on Instagram for questions you had about finances, money, that sort of thing, and we're going to go through some of them.
Yeah.
But first we have this little message. Practice exams and the MCAT are just around the corner and study time's here to help. Check out any of our walkthrough guides or our MCAT video walkthrough or workshops. Use the code Wholesome23 at checkout to get $5 off any order on the study time website over $40. That's Wholesome23.
So, today and sort of on this running series of we get other people to come in and talk about things that they know a lot more about than Saren and myself. We always get a lot of questions from students about money, particularly in regards to university or working on later on. And as you sort of enter the job market and get a job for the first time and stuff, there is a lot of sort of uncertainties and things that you maybe aren't too aware of that I don't know why you don't ask your parents. I never asked my parents how that kind of thing worked. I don't know why.
I do sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. Not as often as I would other things.
Maybe I just didn't respect my parents' ability to like handle money.
Definitely depends on where your parents have come from as well.
That is very true.
It's definitely a social construct on whether you can ask them or not.
100%. Yeah. So I guess before we like actually even get into the questions, do you want to talk a bit about like what you're studying and all that kind of thing and how that's kind of fed into you being a money enthusiast?
Money enthusiast here. Yeah, for sure. So I'm studying a bunch of things. My commerce background though is accounting and finance. So obviously there's an inherent love of money from those two subjects. They're usually quite boring if you don't enjoy numbers. But I'm also backing it up with some psychology as well to get more of a holistic view on how people spend money, think about it, the sort of ways in which they approach it, because everybody's different. Not everybody is a little person who makes a rational decision every single decision of their life. So that's sort of my educational background towards this.
Again, because I said this before we started filming, I'm learning just as much as everyone else. What is the main difference between finance and accounting? Like are they about?
So accounting is a traditional way to look at it is you're a bookkeeper. You're someone who takes the numbers, makes sure they're right, accurate, where they should be, and then you do some like little analysis on it. So what do the numbers actually mean? What can you do with that information? Whereas finance is more looking at sort of financial tools that people use, or like concepts like interest or taking a loan out and then using that to purchase something to make better returns. So it's dealing with how to manipulate money to create more money, which is capitalism 101. But
So they kind of like marry together quite well then.
Yeah, there's a good relationship between the two subjects, for sure.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I didn't take accounting or finance like even at high school, so I wouldn't have know the first thing about it. But did you have any questions for yourself, like selfishly, before we get into everyone else's?
No, I think we had some good questions come in.
Okay.
We'll hold KiwiSaver, so we'll talk about KiwiSaver next week.
Yeah, and our 10-minute slot video thing that we are doing now on the fortnightly. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be breaking down all the KiwiSaver know-how.
Yeah, so I guess the first question we'll have today is, this came in from heaps of people, and like various questions about saving, like what is the best way to save money? A lot of people talking about, friends wanting to go out all the time. Like, I guess we can tie into this, but yeah, a lot of people wanting
literally
about friends
just came
wanting
back from
to
coffee.
come. Yeah, we had coffee and fries, and it was Wellington, so of course it cost like $1 million. But yeah, like, what are the best ways to save money? What are some like good principles? And then like, how do you not stay away from constant temptation and constant erratic spending.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think it all falls down. I think we had another question on this on like creating a budget, but good saving definitely comes from a strong budget as a foundation. So I think of savings or any financial goals in 3 stages as a what, a why, and a how. So if you split any financial decisions into those 3 stages and really understand them, you can kind of get behind and support yourself when you're trying to do something, and it convinces you to want to do it, because the biggest danger is like the friend situation is something comes along and that disrupts your plan. So if you're not convinced that you want to be doing it in the first place, it falls behind. So with that in mind, the how would be a budget. But you want to think of a what. So what are you saving for? If it's just to have cash in the bank, that's not really a good reason, and it's going to be very easy to spend it.
I can say that from personal experience.
It's very easy to spend cash in the bank if the only reason you have it is because it's there. So if you're thinking of maybe a trip away, thinking you're preparing for university, emergency situations, if you tie a strong what, it'll help you want to put away a little bit each week. And the easiest way to do that is to just take a portion of whatever income you have. So like find something that's comfortable, that you aren't gonna miss. If you like were to lose it tomorrow and it wouldn't bother you, then that's sort of the amount you can comfortably save, because if you never had it in the first place, you're not gonna wanna touch it again. And then just putting it into a separate account, maybe like a savings account where you get penalized if you try to take it out, because then there's an extra incentive to leave it there and not touch it. And then it starts to generate some of its own money. Disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, so this is all generalized information.
You're going to get like a whole lot of DMs after this being like, help me make my budget.
Please don't sue me. But if you use a savings account, it starts making its own little bit of money and interest as well, and then that almost like makes you want to put more in so that you see that number go up.
How would, because you touched on like a very good thing there, like if you don't actually feel that you're saving for something, because I know I used to be really, really good at saving money, because that was when I thought I'm saving this for university, I'm saving this to pay for university. And like without having that, it's so much more difficult to, I guess, treat it as a priority.
Yeah. It's like anything in life, like any goal that you set or anything you want to do, if you don't really believe in what you're doing in the first place, it's very easy to just be like, nah, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I know the times in my life where I've saved the most rapidly is when I've had something in mind. Like earlier this year, I went on a holiday, like you'd be surprised when you want to go somewhere, how quickly so much money will show up in your account, without just, fizzling out.
I guess, because I don't actually think this was a question on here, but I think it does tie in really well to what you were talking about before, is exploring different bank accounts and different ways that those are set up and how you can utilize that to really like facilitate that kind of thing. So I guess like what is like a beginner's guide of accounts or types of bank accounts that you can have? Yeah,
so it really does depend on the bank that you're dealing with, but typically you're going to have your normal account that you use for everyday things that has no costs really tied to it. It's just there to keep money in it. And then you start delving out to savings accounts. So most banks have multiple options for that. Some of them might be like a serious saver where you get a high interest rate, like money back on the money you have in it. But it has lots of fees, like if you take money away, or there might be some less serious ones. So best bet would be to look at any bank that you've got. They've got lots of info in it because they just want you to use their different accounts. Because they like spending the money that you put in the bank. So
well, exactly.
There's lots of options depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think informing yourself about that, and like you said, every bank is slightly different, is like good. I know, for example, like I use like an online account, like that's only accessible through online banking.
Yeah, I also have like an account where like it's not tied to my card. Like you can only change it online. And like now it shows up like when I click on that account, it says like if you have this much, so like if you have this much more money in your account by the end of the month, you get like so much bonus interest, and it does the calculation and it shows you.
It's really cool. Good. Like, that would motivate me.
If I put another $20 in this account, I get $5 for free at the end of the month.
And definitely not having it tied to your physical card is like the key to saving, because then you can't accidentally spend it or be tempted to spend it because it's just right there in your hand.
100%. It's like out of sight, out of mind thing, right? Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Okay. What is the difference between credit, debit, and EFTPOS cards?
Cool. So this one's kind of easy to look at. So you've got your EFTPOS card, which is very basic, and it just lets you sort of use your checking account. Sometimes it'll let you use a savings account, but those two are sort of the only ones you'll see on that. And it's just, you can only use it for day-to-day transactions. You can't use it online, any of that sort of stuff. Your credit card's where you go into danger territory. So obviously that's spending money that you don't have. And that'll be using like a credit account that you would have to sign up and agree to with your bank. But that will let you take care of like online transactions, day-to-day transactions. But the biggest thing is you're not spending your own money. You have to pay that back.
Usually a very high interest rate.
Yeah, so usually very high interest rates. So you've got to really seriously consider if you want a credit card. And then your debit card is sort of the love child between the two. So it lets you do all the online things that you want to do. But it's dealing with your own money in your like EFTPOS account rather than a credit account. So that's sort of your middle ground, letting you do all the online things without the credit risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know some people who have like an EFTPOS card specifically for like when they go to town or something like that, because the thing is those cards are only the swipe ones, like they don't have the chip, so you can't do PayWave and stuff like that. So you sort of eliminate a lot of danger of having things go awry. Which has saved people in the past. But I think it is like a good option if you aren't going to be using a lot of online stuff. Cool.
For sure.
How do you, what is one of the best ways of keeping track of like bills and rent and being able to sort of keep on top of that kind of thing?
For me, it's a spreadsheet. Being an accounting student,
maybe we should change it to a spreadsheet enthusiast.
Mega spreadsheet enthusiast. I think the biggest thing to do is almost categorize them. So obviously as you get older, you're going to have more types of bills that come in. So at the moment, you might be looking at like a phone bill, or I can't really think of what else. You might have subscriptions or something that you like signing up to, like Spotify, Netflix, things like that. So because they come in at the sort of the same time every month, what you can do is you can have like a list of the name and then what it costs each month, and then you sort of have a total, so you know what to expect in terms of bills going out each month because they don't change. So that's why a spreadsheet's really handy for that sort of stuff, or you can even just have like a list on a noteboard or something if you really top of it, but that allows you to figure out how much sort of cash you need to cover at least your bills, and it's sort of your first stepping stone for building a budget anyway, is to just make a list of everything that's frequent, because you obviously can't track things that are going to come out of the blue.
Is that needs versus wants, say?
Yeah, so the biggest thing with that would be more in setting a budget, but I definitely see bills can fall into needs or wants. So if you're thinking about, for example, coming to uni and you need to get a flat, obviously rent is going to be more of a need. If you don't pay that, you're going to get kicked out and be living on the street. Whereas something like a Netflix subscription is more in a want category, because obviously it gets you through the tough times if you're studying hard or whatever, but like you could live without it.
You'd be surprised like some of the bills that you just pay and then realize like if you wanted to you could cut them back. Like
that's my
do
YouTube
you need
Premium.
Spotify? Do you need YouTube Premium? Like can you deal with an ad like in front of a video?
Well, actually I thoroughly enjoy it. And, I actually really enjoyed it. And it's very jarring whenever I go into anybody else's account and I'm forced to watch ads.
It adds those lovely little hooks. It's like suspense moments. It's like, we're about to, and then it's like, nice ad, and then you come back to it. I can live with them, but...
Oh, the mid-roll ads.
Mid-roll ads.
Maybe we should, we don't get enough views, but maybe we should add like mid-roll ads in the Wholesome half hour.
No, I object to that on a moral level.
Especially now, YouTube does like 2 ads.
Yeah, 2 ads. In each ad segment. Yeah.
Well, now I'm twice as glad that I have YouTube Premium. You guys have not changed my mind in any way, shape or form.
Save the cash.
What would be like something that you guys consider like probably a want, but you treat it as a need?
Probably the amount I spend on clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like do I need like 4 sweaters from Barker's? Probably not.
Will I buy them?
But like it's one of those things like if I needed to like stop like shopping, like I can. Like I am it's a bit.
Maybe we should do a fast fashion episode
like,
to get you off that.
There's an element of like knowing like just like thinking it through a little bit, like, does this, like, do I get, like, if I'm going out with my friends, if I'm spending $20 on going out with my friends, getting dinner with them, like, do I enjoy this? Like, would I notice if I perhaps didn't do this? Or would I notice if maybe instead we just got coffee and maybe that's only $5?
Because I think my biggest one would be fast food. I have, as you guys know, I have a heavy reliance on just quick eats during the day, or going for dinner or whatever. So that comes across as a need, because it's like, oh, I need to eat. I need to get food. Yeah. But realistically, I could make a sandwich. I could buy groceries instead of spending that money. Oh, but they save money. I know. But I think that's the clearest one for me.
I think there is also something else that feeds into like that one specifically, though, is an idea of convenience and stuff like that. For myself, I always think, I would love to make food at home. I would love to be able to do meal prep. But like when I go out for a day, I don't have ready access to a microwave, or I can't just keep something in a fridge. Like, I'm moving around all the time. And the viability of being able to take any kind of food with me depends so much on the day. And sometimes it's just not viable. So it's either starve or buy something.
And I mean, you obviously see when you go and use those convenience functions, you see that you're spending a little bit more than if you'd made it yourself. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
But I think within that as well, you can make informed decisions about the way you're spending the money. Like you said, Sarah, you have the option of going out for an exorbitant lunch and spending $20, $30. Alternatively, you could get something cheaper on the menu. Drink water. You don't need that $7.50 carrot juice. It's not. In those situations as well, you can go out.
Coffee, it's cheaper.
But just trying to actually not blow it when you do decide to go out, or if you choose to make that decision, right?
Yeah, I think that comes back to thinking actively about your money rather than just it's there, money gets spent, therefore I'm going to spend it. It's like, think about, if I spent this here, what am I missing out on if I'd spent it somewhere else?
100%. Cool. So, how does insurance work? Do you just pay money and then you get it back if you die?
Favorite question right there. Insurance is a fun one. So I think that's more specifically relating to life insurance. But you're going to see insurance in sort of...
Most,
you're going to need it in some point of your life. And it comes in so many different forms. Like you can insure your car, your house, the things you have in it.
Travel insurance. Income protection insurance.
Life insurance, obviously. Like, an insurance company will sell you anything to protect. Because their method of making money is obviously they get your cash, they can then use that to do what they want with it. But the thing about insurance is there's no guarantees. So in the life insurance example, you're not just going to get that cash back like if you almost die or if you die. Those models usually have a lot of fine print where they'll be like, in this situation, you don't get any money. In this one, you don't. In this one, you do. So with life insurance, for example, they might give you a 20-year period. At the end of that, it's not guaranteed. You're not just going to get a big $1.5 million payout. It's if you don't die within that period, then you've just spent money on nothing. But obviously, that's not to say don't get insurance, because when you think about house and contents, if someone hit your car, which is a very common thing to happen, you're going to want insurance to cover it.
I definitely think car insurance is probably one of the most worthwhile ones, because I think that's the one where, like, cars you use on an almost daily basis. If you
and also one. If you hit someone else's car.
If you
hit someone else's Audi A4 on the weekend.
Then you definitely want insurance to cover that $100,000 bill.
Your little Nissan Pulsar ain't gonna cover that.
But so in terms of the way it works, is you're essentially paying a company some cash, and they're going to offer to help cover any expenses for whatever they're covering. So contents is a good example. You pay for whatever you think all your stuff is worth. So it might be, I don't know, $50,000, because you've got to think about everything. If you were to lose everything, what would it cost to buy it all back? And they'll say, cool, you pay us $20 a week or whatever. And then if you have a house fire, if you get robbed, you can come to us and we'll give you some cash back to cover whatever it was taken. So it's not a guarantee that you're going to get that cash. You might never use it, but it's a way
You may never get burgled.
Yeah. Some people go their entire lives paying house insurance for a high rate and then their house never gets damaged.
Yeah.
But it's the protection element. It's you're covered if it does happen. You got to think of the what if rather than just being like, nah, it's not going to happen, and then suddenly you lose everything.
Yeah. It's that, I think it's that Murphy's Law, eh? As soon as you cover yourself, nothing's going to happen. And as soon as you think that nothing's going to happen and you want to, save money or whatever it is, something's going to happen. And it's not going to work out well. But and I know it was something you said before the episode was, particularly in regards to life insurance, if nobody is dependent on you, it's really probably not worth your while.
Yeah, so I think life insurance really illustrates the industry very clearly. Is if you were to die and you had life insurance, you don't get that money anyway. It goes to other people because you're dead, so you're not going to spend it. So what that's saying is sort of like if you have no debt or no one that's sort of going to be reliant on being supported financially, then life insurance at the moment wouldn't be something you'd want to think about.
Yeah.
If you're going into industries that might be dangerous, so if you're getting like an apprenticeship to be a sparky or something, you might want to consider it just because there's danger elements involved with your job, which increase the risk of needing to claim on that insurance, because life insurance sometimes apply if you almost die. It's not necessarily if you only die.
Right.
There are different circumstances for everything. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So next one is, how do student loans work?
Student loans.
Love student loans.
Love student
Everyone
loans.
loves the student loans.
I think, for the most part, student loans are good though.
Yeah, so I'm in the for camp for this. Me and my flatmate have a lot of long discussions about whether student loans are a good thing or not. But the way they work has changed a bit since I started university. So obviously we've got fees free, right? So
None of us.
None of us.
none of us.
None of us.
Yeah, enjoy. So essentially student loans, they were broken down, if I remember this correctly, into 4 components. So you've got obviously the course costs. Fees free, you're fine, but if you don't qualify for that, then it's going to cover the cost of the papers or whatever course you're taking. You then have either the allowance or the student loan that you can use to help cover living costs, which is sort of like a weekly payment depending on how you're set up. You then have course-related costs, which is a nice little $1,000 booster throughout the year to help cover some of the
your textbooks.
other things. Textbooks.
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
Not your makeup.
Definitely not a dog.
Definitely not a dog.
I know a dude who bought a dog with his.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That dude needs an award. And then your 4th component, which not many people will ever see, unless they're in certain circumstances, is they do additional support. So it might be things like accommodation benefits. It might be if you have an illness or something that means you qualify for another allowance on top of everything else. So there's 4 sort of functions to a student loan. And that's all taken care of by StudyLink. So the beauty of a student loan in New Zealand is with StudyLink and IRD, it's interest-free. So they write off any interest that you might generate compared to getting a normal loan. So that means what you get is what you pay back. You don't have to then pay extra on top of it for borrowing it, which is pretty sweet, pretty lucky in our country to do that.
Yeah.
Next, the only improvement we could have was to make education free, which...
It used to be.
It used to be. And
People
I
used to
think
be paid to go to uni, right?
Yeah, if they had a job, it was like, no, go get a degree.
So jaded.
Because everyone's doing it now, obviously there's a greater demand.
Yeah.
Even now, the government still pays about 2/3 of your course fees. Like most people pay $6,000 or $7,000 a year. Your courses actually cost about $25,000 a year. And the government pays about 2/3 of that.
Yeah. So student loans, all of that money, the only money you actually get to touch is the course-related costs, the living costs, and the allowances. The course fees go direct to the university.
What about, I guess, there's always a lot of confusion for people about the difference between a student allowance and a student loan.
Yeah, that's fair. So I'd rather think about it as living costs or allowance. Because the student loan sort of encapsulates the whole thing. So some people can qualify for student allowance. So for me, it's an age thing. So because I'm over a certain age, I'm allowed to claim allowance, which is it's essentially a benefit, which is supplied by the government, which means you don't need to pay that portion back. But there are restrictions involved with that. So I can't earn over a certain amount of cash, or it takes away my allowance. Things like that. There's like rules because you don't have to pay it back. Whereas your living costs it's a temporary loan. So you take it out, you have to pay it back over time.
Yeah.
There are other ways to qualify for student allowance. So it depends on your family, like your household income.
Yeah.
They check out what your parents are making. And if it's under a certain amount, they'll throw you the student allowance to help support your journey through university.
And that the amount that you get through the allowance is dependent on the information that you submit and stuff like that. So
definitely.
I think a good example of that is your parents' income. And I know an issue that a lot of people have is when they are in separate households or something like that, and they're only dependent on one parent, but StudyLink still takes into account both parents' incomes.
Yeah, so StudyLink does have options to deal with those sorts of situations as well with split
They
households.
are nightmarish, but you can do it.
You can do it. So if you think you would qualify for something like that, where you are just living mainly in one house, if that's your situation, push StudyLink to help you out, because there are ways of getting it. It's just they tend to try and blanket rule everything.
And at the end of the day, the hassle of dealing with that kind of stuff is still much better than still worth it if you're going to be getting that continued money and support throughout the year if you do need it, right?
Yeah, because your living cost is about what, $10,000 to $12,000 across a uni year, if I'm somewhere around that ballpark.
Yes, yeah.
So imagine
around 10, yeah.
Imagine getting that for 3 years. That's $30,000 to $40,000 you have to pay back versus not having to pay it back.
Yeah.
So that's quite a bit of savings.
If you can get it.
If you can get it. So
Yeah. There are a few different things that do depend on it, but I think it is worth inquiring about at least.
Definitely.
You know,
and
all they can say is no.
The StudyLink program that you use to apply runs you through those scenarios. Like they'll tell you if you're going to qualify or not. So
Yes.
super helpful that way.
Awesome. So, what are the costs associated with uni? So things like textbooks and stuff like that.
I feel like everyone will have experience on this one.
Everyone's is different though, right?
Yeah. So depending on the course you're doing at uni, textbooks is obviously a clear-cut one. They get pricey at if you're buying brand new, you're looking at $100 to $300 depending on subject.
Science textbooks.
Yeah.
Campbell's biology, $300.
Chuck in a lab coat for an extra, what is it, 70?
60, 70, and that's mandatory. If you're going to go into a lab, you have to wear it, right?
Yeah, so your textbooks are your big killer for all subjects. Then depending on you might have subject requirements. So architecture, for example, they have to cover a lot of their materials when they're doing projects, things like that. Science, like you said, needs lab coats. There might be other bits and bobs. So there's additional costs to doing a course. But I think there are also the other things that people don't really associate with uni, but they're there. So rent in a big city, universities being in big cities, unless you're going to a polytech or something, which might be local. Moving to Wellington, your rent alone is averaging around $230, $240 a week at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you're just still living in wherever you're at, it might be $180, $170 a week. So there's obviously a little bit extra associated with moving to where you need to be. Of course.
Yeah, 100%.
I guess thinking of some of the out of the box, well, not out of the box, but some of the costs you may not think about is what's your social life going to cost you, compared to your social life in high school, if you're going to go out partying every weekend, that's going to cost you.
People there are so many people in first year, and it's kind of crushing, but also they have no one to blame but themselves, is people who save up a lot of money for university and blow it all in town. I know so many people who have dropped $500-600 in town in one night, and then they'll repeat that. There is no sillier way that you could spend your money in my mind.
There are also little things like going to a catered hall, but then not eating the food there. So then suddenly you're paying for food as well as food.
Yeah.
So double food.
100%. I think there are a lot of extra things as well that people don't take into account. Even if you are in a catered hall and you do really stick to the food that's in there, you still have to buy living necessities. They're not going to provide deodorant for you, you know?
And then travel, to your lecture and anywhere else you might need to go, depending on where you live. Obviously, it's going to vary significantly. If you own a car, that's expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive. So
Because
there's
you also
lots
have
of,
those ongoing costs.
It's just
Yeah.
lots
of
things.
little things that stack up.
And that's just it, right? They do really stack up. And in your mind, you can just think, oh, this is just a small thing here and just a small thing here and just a small thing here. And then if you would actually add it up, you would think, oh, damn, that's like $70 a week or something like that. That I just fully didn't take into account because I thought all these minuscule things were just
Little bits and pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So when do we start applying for student loans?
Oh, student loans, do they open mid-September? I want to say around 15th, 16th of September. So that'll be for like the next university year. If you're for some reason going into like third trimester for like a summer course or something before starting uni, I'm pretty sure those are open now. But there's also a cut-off date, so you can't leave it too late. I think it's the 21st of December, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Though, you should apply early and you should apply before that date. But in case you don't, for some reason, like over summer, you decide you want to go to uni,
you can
just apply as soon as you know.
Yeah.
And it should still work out.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the main closing is like mid-January or something like that. They cut it pretty close.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the circumstances of the course.
True.
But essentially, even if you don't know what you're going to be studying, if you know where you're going, you can apply. And then they will still preemptively approve you regardless of what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
So just don't leave it late. It's free to apply. So
yeah, for sure. I have to go.
It's all good.
I'm so sorry. I have to cut this short. I have somewhere I have to be in 15 minutes.
better get leaving it.
Yeah, so sorry. But thank you. That's genuinely like very helpful for me as well, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skedaddle and Sarah's going to have to look at a weird, awkward like gap in the camera for a while.
Okay, so this is one we actually get quite often, surprisingly so. But, actually not so surprising. Okay, how do taxes work? Like, what do you need to know? And I guess we can break this down by PAYE earners and then other.
So I think there are two main types of taxes in New Zealand. So you're going to be dealing primarily with GST, goods and services, or you're going to be dealing with PAYE, which is your income tax. So goods and services we can knock off real quick. Most places you spend money are going to have a GST attached because businesses need to pay that to the government. So everything you're paying for the most part will be GST inclusive unless it says it's exclusive, which you'd then need to pay another 15%. That's flat rate. One of the only countries in the world to do it, but that helps keep businesses and other government things running. So your main one that you're going to see is income tax. So
just a quick side note, when you go to the supermarket or anywhere like that, usually GST, like 99% of the places you go to, GST is included. If you look at your receipt at the bottom, it will be like includes GST of
like $3.72. If you're going to buy like wood, for example, a large lumber purchase, then it probably will be GST exclusive. So GST is nice and simple. We all got to pay it. So income tax is another thing that we all need to pay for. And this is the other main tax supporting the country. So essentially all this cash goes towards the government. And it's a way for them to help pay for services like fees free.
Literally everything, like
medicine,
roads, medicine, your student loan, like interest.
Everything you take for granted for living in the country is probably covered by the taxes you pay in some way. So income tax works on a scale basis in New Zealand. So we begin, I believe, at 10.5%, depending on how much, it's all dependent on how much you earn in a year. So we have different brackets, starts at 10.5%. Once you're above that, you pay more on that amount, which is 17.5%. And then it shoots up to, I want to say 30%. Something like that. 30 or 33%.
And the way it works, there's this common misconception that if you earn like, what's the first bracket's 24, the second bracket?
Oh, the first bracket
24,000.
24,000 to 48,000.
So there's this thing that, I don't know, a lot of people think that say I earn 25,000, 1,000 over the limit, I pay 17.5% on the entire lot. But that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. So if you earn 25,000, you'll pay 10.5% on the first 24, and then your last $1,000, you pay the 17.5%. And the IRD calculates all that for you if you're going through a normal place of work. So that's the way it scales. And the way it's designed is to help support people who are paying less or earning less, they pay less tax on that portion. If someone's earning 200,000, they're obviously paying more tax to make up for the fact they're earning more money.
They earn more money, and I guess this is getting into political ideology, but like they're able to pay more.
Yeah. The rule of thumb in tax is the brackets are designed to impact the people in the different brackets in as little way possible. So how much money can they afford to lose without it being an impact on their life? So that's taken care of by the IRD with tax codes. So you might see these when you start getting into work. They have a nice little sheet that you can get off the website, which will help you figure out what your code is. We've got M's, MEs, SL tags, secondary codes as well. Popular myth about the secondary tax code is they're not technically taxing you more. They're just taxing you as if you combined your two jobs together. So it's
having two jobs at the end of the year. Like having two jobs doesn't mean like you're not penalised for having a second job.
It balances all out in the wash. It's just a way of making sure that you're paying the right amount so you don't owe tax. It's to help you out more than to steal your money. And
I guess so if you're in a regular like employed job, you're gonna like your income tax is gonna be charged through PAYE. And you don't really have to worry about it. You sign some paperwork when you start your job, and it's all taken care of, and you see it on your pay slip, it automatically gets deducted. What if you're working for someone like Uber Eats, Deliver Easy, some sort of self-employed contract?
Cool. So like for that, it goes a different way. So with a normal job, like you said, the paperwork takes care of it. The business will pay it for you, and then you don't need to worry about it. But if you're contracted, you're essentially your own employer, so you have to pay your own tax. If you don't do this and don't set it up correctly, I think your base rate is 45% for a non-declaring contractor. It's very high. Like it's designed to make sure that people who do contract work pay their taxes on time and correctly. So instead of doing it that way, you need to pay it yourself at the end of the year, or you can choose to pay it off over periods of time. August, February, May, I think are the primary dates that it's due, provisional tax. But what you essentially need to do is set aside part of your money that you get. So if somewhere like Uber Eats is paying you, they might give you $25, but you then need to pay tax out of that rather than having it taken off that $25. So you might want to set aside $3 to $4 from that paycheck to cover that amount of money.
10 and a half or 17%.
So you can use.
If you did 15, you'd probably be if you're still in high school. If you put aside 15%, you'd probably be safe.
You'll be good. There's like a little additional tag to that though, is if you're a contractor, you also have to cover your own ACC levy, which is 1.45%, I think. And then any additional things that you might have. So you might want to put some money into KiwiSaver. We might touch on that. You might
next week, KiwiSaver, come back.
And then you might have student loan, for example, that you need to pay a portion to. So essentially the difference is normal employment taken care of, contractor, you need to pay all the little bits and bobs. IRD
website is a
got everything
great
you need.
tool.
They don't want you to get it wrong, so they're going to teach you how to do it right.
IRD is actually very good, and I mean it's within their interest to make it easy for people to pay tax, because then people are more likely to pay tax.
Tax is a good thing to study at university though. It's very complex. It can get interesting or it cannot. So.
So I guess the last question, and this is one we get from time to time as well, is like any just like general job seeking advice for high schoolers?
So I think for me, the biggest thing is don't try and avoid something because of how you feel you will look by working there. So I spent 7 years at McDonald's. I spent a lot of my life working, behind a counter, behind a grill. And I'm extremely thankful for that period of my life. Service work teaches you to, develop a bit of grit, how to sort of stay positive in stressful environments, sort of how to work hard. So for high schoolers, I think service industry jobs are good as long as they're going to treat you right. Retailers sort of might look at hiring you. You might have just local shops, for example, might be willing to just give you a shot if you went in there, put out your application.
Literally just trying as many places, like if you try like 2 places, like your odds of getting something are pretty low. But if you know, every couple of weeks you go around and try like 5, 6, 7 places.
Yeah, and take like a printed CV with you.
Yeah.
There are a lot of
Dress
tools.
nicely.
Yeah,
Like
speak nicely.
nicely.
Because they might not necessarily have a job advertisement anywhere, but they might be thinking about getting another employee. So, what's the harm in asking?
You just want to like make your odds as high as possible. You know, in another 2 months they might be, oh, we're really busy. Oh, that guy who came in the other day, like he was really nice, he was really polite. Maybe I'll give him a call.
Yeah.
He left his CV behind.
I think the biggest thing as well is don't get disheartened if people are telling you no. So obviously with that sort of strategy is a lot of people might not be looking for work. So if they say no, just be like, sweet as, at least you gave it a shot and you would never know if you didn't. Don't let that discourage you thinking you'll never get a job because there's something out there for everyone. It's just a matter of effort, I suppose.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that's us. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something today. I certainly did. If you have anything else if you have any other like special topics that you want us to like talk about, let us know. We can find a Josh up another
there are plenty
another
of us
dimension.
around. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, thanks so much for watching.
Thank you very much.
Next week we'll talk KiwiSaver.
Alrighty, exciting.
Very exciting. See you then.
See you then.